Now this week, Cameroon's election officials dropped a bombshell by disqualifying Maurice Kamto, the opposition's best-known voice from the October 12th presidential race. His exclusion, based on a disputed interpretation of electoral law, comes as only 13 out of 83 candidates were approved, raising fresh concerns about fairness and transparency. Now, meanwhile, Maurice Kamto has formally appealed his disqualification by the electoral body electoral. And with the Constitutional Council expected to rule by August 11, tensions are rising, especially after small protests and clashes broke out in Douala. And many actually have the fear that the October 12th election, with President Paul Biya seeking an 8th term at the age of 92, may lack real competition, fuel frustration among a delusioned youth and opposition supporters. To speak more on this, I am joined by Metuge Stanley. He's a journalist in Cameroon, and we also have Njine Elvis Baneh. He will be joining us later. But then right now we have Barrister Asong Khumbah. He's an independent presidential candidate 2025. He's a politician. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us at this time.
Thank you, Ocean. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
It's a pleasure. So let me begin with you, Metuge. Metuge, let's start with the basics. Why exactly has Maurice Kamto, that's Biya's strongest challenger, been disqualified? Why now, just months to the election?
Thanks so much for this opportunity. It's been a very strong signal that we saw from Professor Maurice Kamto in the year 2019, 2018, I beg your pardon, where Cameroon was going in for the presidential elections. And he came out the second best candidate. That's after the present president of the country, His Excellency Paul Biya. And since then, that was a powerful way to introduce himself into the political landscape of the country. He has gone about bringing on board many militants, many supporters, and he's indeed a fierce and a greatest politician in the country at the moment, with his former political party, which is the CRM political party. His rejection obviously has been just because of his the increased number of popularity. I told you earlier, he has garnered in the course of these years. We've seen him very active and doing everything possible to see that there is a change in terms of leadership, the top job of this republic called Cameroon, and him being that so popular a person and having the commoners, I must say, mostly behind him. It's a big threat, especially to the ruling party and to the current government in place. They don't want someone that indeed who poses them a challenge, just like he did in the year 2018 when Cameroon was going in for the presidential election. So since then, it has been a do or die to do everything possible to disqualify him. Unfortunately, what they are holding on to is because he never partook in the 2019 municipal elections, which made him not to have candidates at the level of the councils, level of us, at the level of the Senate, because he never took part in the elections. Then he was clamoring for reforms in the electoral, electoral laws, electoral reform. He was clamoring for, so he had to back out. His party never partook in that. And the government held on that during this 2025 elections to see, since he doesn't have, probably he doesn't have any public person, he doesn't have any electorate, be it at the regional, at the local councils, like at the National Assembly, as well as the Senate.
If you can hear me, Metuge, how ironclad is that particular section 121 of the Electoral Code?
I didn't get that, please. I didn't get the question.
I said, how ironclad is the section, that's the section 121 of the Electoral Code that barred him?
Yes, definitely. Whenever you have that latitude to do, you're in power. It's often said in politics, every party wants to remain in power as long as they can. or as long as possible. So, mind you, all those who are coming out with these electoral reforms, electoral laws, majority of them are of the ruling party at the level of the parliament. So definitely they want to do everything that will favor their candidate or favor their party because they have the majority. And whatever thing they come out with, it becomes law because it's going to be promulgated into law by the President of the Republic. So by so doing, it becomes so challenging. And that's where they held him, saying that his party cannot participate in the elections because he doesn't have any official at the local, national, national assembly, be it the Senate, be it the National Assembly. And it has been a very tough time for him. That's why we saw him going into plan for his plan B, which is the use of the Manidan political party that had to endorse him as their candidate. But again, the electoral board had to disqualify his candidacy or his file, saying that it's incomplete, or the party had to endorse two candidates. And that's just where they had to hold him and making him not to be eligible to be among the 13 that were retained for the presidentials out of the 82 that initially applied. So we are now looking forward to the Constitutional Council to find out what they have to say, because they have the yam and the knife. They have the last hope of many Cameroonians who want to see Professor Maurice Kamto as one of the contenders for the 2025 presidentials. And we indeed are looking forward to just what will be the resolutions arrived at by the Constitutional Council.
Come back to you,
right?
Let's move to Barrister Asong Khumbah. Now, Barrister, you were a presidential candidate as well, and you did say that your candidacy, was not submitted because it didn't meet certain criteria. Can you, share with us a bit about what you went through?
Yeah, of course. It really saddens me to see Cameroon in the situation in which it stands now, where the whole political atmosphere has been taken hostage by the regime, and particularly the CPDM party, which is the ruling party. For one, I declared candidacy last year in the month of January, and I declared my candidacy as an independent candidate. And we all know that according to Article 121 of our electoral law of 2012, it provides that there are two types of candidacies in Cameroon. So you have the candidacy through a political party, meaning that you have to be endorsed by a political party that has elected officials, such as municipal councillors, regional councillors, deputies, or senators. Now, the second type of candidacy is what we call an independent candidacy. An independent candidacy warrants that the individual who seeks that type of candidacy should provide 300 signatures, 30 from each region, which we have 10 regions in Cameroon, and these signatures have to be given or provided by certain personalities. So I will name them: senators, deputies, municipal councillors, regional councillors, first-class chiefs, and members of the chambers of trade and agriculture. Unfortunately, in my quest for these signatures, I was unable to acquire all of them because there are certain regions, particularly the region of the South, which is a region where the President of the Republic originates from. They told me clearly that their region is loyal to their president, is loyal to their great-grandfather, to their grandfather, to their father, to their uncle, to their cousin, to their nephew, and that it will be impossible for them to give me signatures. They even went as far as telling me that even if the President of the Republic was dead and in his tomb, they will still go and knock on his tomb to ask him if they are going to give me a signature. So this clearly proves that there is no democracy in Cameroon. The political party that holds Cameroon today, Cameroon hostage, and people no longer believe in that they could actually choose a particular candidate who actually represents the aspirations of Cameroonians, who want change, but they want to hold on to a dictator that has kept us in bondage for over 43 years, where we have an Anglophone crisis that has not been resolved, where we have issues with infrastructure, very poor roads, where there is very high rates of unemployment, where access to health is an issue, where light is an issue, where we don't even have access to potable waters in many regions of our country. So this is what we are talking about, and these are the difficulties I had. And I later on decided that I'm going to seek for a political party with elected officials. And I met several of them, about 3, who were very positive about giving me their signatures. But for some reason, while going towards the conclusion of the deal, the political deal, where they were supposed to endorse me, they suddenly changed their minds. So I realized that the ruling party had put a machinery to actually prevent me from dropping my candidacy. And moreover, my documents, like my taxpayers' documents, only came in a day after the deadline. So that just goes to show how Cameroon today has been taken hostage.
Barrister, you talked about, them wanting to, keep you guys hostage, but do they, or bondage, do they really have a choice? If you look at it, really, do they have a choice? Because even as we know, Kamto filed his appeal with the Constitutional Council on July 29th, which was yesterday, and the Constitutional Court has up to 10 days to decide, publishing a final list by August 11. Do you also think that the process that's this condensed can really deliver both fairness and transparency?
It's impossible. It's impossible. In Cameroon, it's very, very unfortunate that justice, which is supposed to be rendered in the name of the people of Cameroon, is now rendered in the name of an individual, the President of the Republic, Paul Biya. It will be very strange to hear this, but when you go to some of our high courts here in Cameroon, for example, at our high court at Bonanjo, at the Court of Appeal here in Douala at Bonanjo, you see the picture of the President of the Republic in the court hall. So what justice are we talking about? The judges at the Constitutional Council have been appointed by the President of the Republic. We don't have an independent judicial organ in Cameroon because the President of the Republic is the President of the higher judicial council. So justice is being rendered in his name, and that's why I say they have been taken hostage. I don't even know why Kamto and the rest are going to waste their time before the Constitutional Council, because their claims will never, ever be accepted. They will be inadmissible, as they have always done and as they did in 2018. So I don't even know why they are wasting their time to go before the same jurisdiction that has been put in place by the President of the Republic, President Paul Biya, who has been there for 43 years and who wants to hold on to power like all those who are around him. So for me, I don't see any fairness in that process. And I know that as the electoral body has already rejected their fight, so will the Constitutional Council do likewise.
Okay. Now, because, the people are the, the opposition is actually saying that, MRC supporters, that they actually noted that other parties are also running multiple candidates, without pushback from Elecam. So why, Kamto? Now let's come back to you, Metuge. Metuge, we heard that there are pockets of violence, in Douala, and we're seeing heavy security deployments in Yaoundé and also Douala as well. Even the UN warned of possible protests, in the center of Yaoundé and near the seat of Elecam itself. How serious is the risk, of large-scale demonstrations?
It's quite unfortunate because the way the country is right now, every political candidate has his or her followers, and Professor Maurice Kamto happens to be one of that person. Those candidates who indeed pulls a lot of people on his side. I told you earlier, he's one of those candidates who is friends to the commoners. So they are actually anticipating to find out what to come out from the the Constitutional Council. And mind you, they are hungry for change. Cameroonians are really hungry for change. I mean, for having someone for over 43 years, someone even jokingly said that his tenure as president of the republic is even older than the creation of the United Nations and other international organs. So it's indeed a very dicey situation for Cameroonians. They are hungry for change. Unfortunately, the playground for all the actors in this race is not level. That's just the unfortunate situation, just like what Barrister said earlier. I mean, he will plays the pipe, dictates the tune, and they want to do everything possible to have everything on their side. But Cameroonians are waiting. I mean, we have no choice. We are Cameroonians are people who are law abiding. All they want, all they are seeking for is just to have change. And we just hope that something will be done. If those who are in charge of the Constitutional Council, of course, they are human beings, and we just believe in God that something might just happen, that they may want to revisit and give the approval of Professor Kamto, probably give him the latitude to contest and let the best win in the ballot box. That's just all what we want. That's what we are praying for. If not, I told you earlier, and as you said, and as you observed, his supporters who are in the towns of Douala, Yaoundé, I mean, this metropolis of Cameroon, they are indeed just anticipating and waiting to find out the end result of it. And we just pray that it doesn't lead us to tension, to violence, to war or whatsoever. We just want everything, this process, to go through in a transparent and peaceful way, so that we can at least still enjoy the peace, or better still, we can still have a country that wants to progress. Because if we destroy everything we have now, I mean, it will take us many years to build clear examples of other African countries. To date, they have not still stood on their feet because of the post-electoral or post-election violence that occur in their country. So we are really just praying and observing that things should not go that path. We want peace to be the epitaph of Cameroon, and let everything go. Transparency should take its place. So we are just anticipating, as journalists as well, our ears, our eyes, are focused on the development of the stories, what's making news out there in Yaoundé. But of course, everything happens in Yaoundé. So we are keen in getting the outcome of it, and hopefully, when they must have come out with their results, we'll find out who among the 13 or 14 who have found in their complaints will be retained. And we just pray that those who will finally be retained can be given a free way to do their campaigns. And if everything goes by, why not? We have some change in this country.
Okay, let's hear from Barrister Khumbah. Barrister Khumbah, are you in support of protests if this appeal doesn't pull through?
Of course, I would like to say that I am a lawyer. I believe in the strict respect of the rule of law. Protests are not in my dictionary. They don't exist in my dictionary, because I strongly believe that the only way that we could ensure peace and stability in the country is that we should seek legal means, and that we should always move according to peaceful mechanisms to resolve our problems as provided by Article 33 of the UN Charter of 1945. I studied in Rwanda, and I know what manifestations can do. I know what conflicts can cause. I worked in the Southwest, one of the regions where we have conflicts today, and I know what conflicts look like. And not to talk about conflicts in many other countries like Ivory Coast, where they had electoral crisis, and we know all the damages that came with it. So for me, I am a Cameroonian that believes in the voice of the voiceless, that believes in the voice of the people, because our constitution is clear. Sovereignty belongs to the people according to Article 2. But we must do it in a very peaceful manner without any violence. Because today, there are so many political enemies. There are people who want Cameroon to go into some sort of war or civil war, and it will not be beneficial for anyone. We have the Boko Haram crisis in the northern regions. We have the Anglophone crisis in the Anglophone region. We have the Seleka terrorists in the East region. If we go on the streets, then we are going to set this nation aflame. So I am completely against protest. I'm completely against about violence. But I strongly believe that if, as advocates, we stand up, we make the required noise, certainly the international community might assist us, other African countries might assist us by talking to President Paul Biya and telling him that he is 93 years old and should leave power. He has been in power for over 43 years, and it's enough. And that we are going to make sure that nothing is being done to him and his family, because I strongly believe that that is the fear which he has, him and his entourage. So we are assuring them that if they do what is correct, they hand over power peacefully, then certainly they will have their way out without any conflict.
All right. Now,
but if they insist, then...
Barrister, now away from the protest, now of the more than 80 people who submitted their candidacy, only 12 were approved, right? And yes, we've established that Kamto's camp said that this is part of a pattern of exclusion. But then I would want to ask, looking at these remaining candidates, realistically, do you think that any of them, can stand a chance, in being able to shake the status quo with Kamto and Biya?
Kamto or Biya, because if we are talking about those present, actually, it's impossible for them to win the acting president, President Paul Biya, because it's clear when you look at the list of those who have been retained, in one way or the other, they all have ties with the ruling party. And that's where the issue comes, because I said clearly that if somebody like Professor Maurice Kamto is not taking part in the elections, if somebody like me is not taking part in the elections, then what opposition are we talking about? What opposition are we talking about in Cameroon? Because when you look at those who have been retained, all of them, in one way or the other, have ties with the ruling party. You can take them one to the next, you realize that they all have ties with the ruling party. So it becomes very difficult, because that's why they did everything to put away the candidates who were very serious, like Professor Maurice Kamto and I, a very young aspiring candidate, a medical doctor, a lawyer, a youth who has been struggling, working very hard in integrity to make sure that he can be an encouragement to the youth, and that together the youth can stand up and say they are ready to take over power and rebuild this country. So they did everything possible to put all that else aside. And those who are left actually today, frankly speaking, it is impossible for them to beat President Paul Biya.
Oh, okay. Now, coming back to you, Metuge. Now, a barrister did say something. He said that in the absence of protests, that he would want the international community to step in and do something about this. But then, aside the AU and the ECAs, Cameroonians abroad are often vocal as well. What role do you think that the diaspora is the diaspora playing, especially in mobilizing around Kamto's exclusion?
I think it's a very important question you're asking there. Just like we have Cameroonians at home who are diverse, so too are even those in the diaspora. I mean, not everyone in the diaspora is for Kamto, and not also everyone in the country is against Kamto. So it just depends on how you look at it. But again, we just expect that even those who are in the diaspora, we know that a good number of them have shown their love, their admiration, their support for President for Professor Maurice Kamto. We saw it recently during his outing out in Paris, France, how it was a mammoth turnout of the sympathizers. People had to leave other countries in Europe just to converge in France for this for that rally that he held. He held out there. It shows just how Cameroonians, I told you earlier, how they want change. And if there is one person who can mobilize Cameroonians as such, that he has been able to prove it, this past few years is Professor Maurice Kamto. So the diaspora has a key role to play. We just expect that probably they can be able to, since they are over there, they can be able to at least bring on board international bodies, who can also intervene and see that we have a peaceful electoral process in this country called Cameroon. Most of them are learned. Most of them are people walking out there that in Europe, in America, and you can name the rest. And they have close ties with these international bodies who can at least intervene in times like this, so that we don't find ourselves wanting tomorrow, because I told you earlier, if we destroy this country, it's going to be a very big shame for us all, and it will take us years to bounce back. Pray for just a peaceful electoral process at the end of October 12th.
All right. Now, coming back to you, Barrister Khumbah, now civil society groups and independent journalists have criticized ELCAM's opaque process. Also the media, right? How has the media pushed back so far? And also, what about community leaders or even religious groups? Are they stepping up to call for dialogue or even a fairer electoral process, or is everyone just laying low?
Well, that's a very difficult question, because I would like to tell you that, unfortunately, the media in Cameroon has been bought. The media in Cameroon is being controlled by the ruling power. So it becomes difficult to put pressure. It becomes difficult for journalists to speak their minds. It becomes difficult for journalists to criticize. And that's why we shall have the impression that the pressure is not really mounting as it should. Now, going on the other hand, we're talking about religious leaders, civil society. Yes, they are doing their best. And I think that religious leaders had called for alternance of power, telling President Paul Biya that he's quite old and that he should step down. They also called for other candidates to be able to respect some propositions which they made. I think the Catholic Church did and several other churches did, to try to educate or advise, better still, these candidates that these are the main problems that Cameroonians are going through. They also certainly called for a fair electoral process. But unfortunately, you have to know that we are living in what I would call a silent dictatorship. Is that we have leaders who behave like they are not dictators, but they are dictators. So it becomes very, very difficult, because at the end of the day, for the few past days, you have gendarmes, you have military men, policemen on every junction in Douala. So that goes to just show you that they are sending a very strong message. No riots, because we are going to crush you guys down. So that is the atmosphere in which we find ourselves. And of course, I will not blame the journalists. I will not blame the civil society. I will not blame the churches, because they are all under fear. And of course, due to this type of authoritative and militarized system which we have today, it becomes very difficult for people to express themselves, except for a few political actors like us who are standing for change, who are standing for peace, and who are standing for alternance of power.
Oh, okay. Now, while we round up, let's come back to you, Metuge. For voters on the ground, especially those who supported Kamto and the coalition that actually, came together and stood behind him or are standing behind him, if Kamto's appeal fails, do you think that this could lead to a complete boycott by the opposition? And what would this even mean for credibility of the vote?
I don't think so. Rather, I expect that even if his candidacy doesn't go through, he should give his weight, he should give his support to other political parties, especially those in the opposition. Many have been asking that he should have just let it be and just step aside and just give his support to other candidates who are running the elections. But I for one, I see nothing wrong with that. It's but normal for him to seek the face of the law that through the Constitutional Council to hear what they have to say. Should his appeal not go through, then I think he will be left with no option than to support or probably form his a coalition where he support his draw his militants to probably to a given opposition, because even at the moment we've not yet had a given coalition. I mean, like a coalition between stakeholders. Some of them have made their intentions that they are open to have other opposition candidates come together and see how they can put their might together. But unfortunately, that is still, we have not yet had that firm coalition at the moment. So we just praying that even if his candidacy doesn't go through, he may still just want to get into an alliance with other opposition parties, especially the 13 retained at the moment, one of them or two of them, and see how he can give them his support. Because, I mean, as I said, he's a key political actor in this country. He has proven that, and it's unfortunate that his party was not present in the 2019 municipal, legislative, and council elections. That's why he couldn't. His party could not just have what they needed. But unfortunately, there is still hope because he can still wage his huge support on the opposition, and mind you, they can spring up a surprise. They can really spring up a surprise. So he still remains very vital in the electoral process, even if his candidacy is rejected by the Constitutional Council.
All right, gentlemen, I really wish we had more time to, speak more on this, but we'll definitely love to have you again some other time, even as we continue to follow with updates on this. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Metuge Stanley, journalist in Cameroon, and also Barrister Asong Khumbah, independent presidential candidate 2025. We appreciate you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.